Okay, good morning, everybody. As promised, we've got Gordy and Felicia Church with us. And Felicia, am I pronouncing your name correctly? Because Gordy says
Yes.
it a little differently. Okay. I just want to make sure that I'm saying the right thing. My friend Alicia, so I just automatically go to Felicia. So I just want to make sure that's good. So yeah. So good morning, everyone, and glad you can join us. We have, like I said, got Gordy and Felicia with us, and they are going to tell us about all things safari today and their company and the history of that. And why don't you guys just say a quick hello, and then I think what we'll do is show your brilliant video, which will give some of the history of the company, and then we can take the conversation from there if that sounds good.
Great. Hi.
Okay. Hello. All right, good. Okay, well, let me show this. It takes 5 minutes or so, but it's worth every minute of it. I never get sick of watching it. Sometimes I just watch it for fun. So anyway, here we go. All right, can you? Yeah, exactly. Okay, I'm going to minimize our screens too while this is playing so people can see it a little better as well.
The very best safari is the one that takes you closest to nature. Felicia and I run as a family a very small and very unique safari company, and it's unique for many reasons. One is it's now a second generation family business that was started by my father, Tony Church, in 1971, and he had this dream to explore and to share this incredible part of Africa with friends and family and guests from all over the world. Thus began this life of wanderlust and exploration for all of us. There's a lot of different definitions of the word safari these days, but in my opinion, the real safari is that which is under canvas, and that is mobile. And that is what Felicia and I love so much with our family. And nothing gives us more excitement than packing the trucks at home and driving out in convoy as we do and as we've done for many years.
Our horses are, I think, fairly unique in the fact that they are purely trained for our safaris. We absolutely love our horses. They're very much part of the family, and there's no safaris without fantastic horses. So for us, that's a strong point of our business, that they are, they show character, they show that they're loved, and they look good. There's also nothing more exciting than riding across the plains and seeing a crackling fire in the distance, and knowing that as you get off your horse, you're going to be handed a scrumptious gin and tonic to end the day.
You need swords.
whole collection of crew who are instrumental in these mobile safaris. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do these trips. There's so much more to a trip than just purely seeing the wildlife, and it's about spending time with the indigenous Kenyan people who have a lot to share with us, a lot of their tribal customs, their traditions, and their wonderful sense of humour, and that's very much incorporated in part of your trip.
Kenya does get under your skin, whether you like it or not, and I think that's why so many people return to this continent again and again, because it truly does touch your heart in a way that you can't describe.
All right. Well, that is so fabulous. I love watching that every time. Well, I think it's a very good entree into the history. I mean, so much of the history is given there. But tell me first why you decided to continue the mobile camping when, you know, so much of it has gone to the luxury lodges and so forth. Nothing wrong with that at all. But what made you decide to stay this course?
I think, you know, for safaris on horseback, the great aspect of it all is the sense of adventure and being able to cover so much country on the back of a horse. And that really lends itself to being mobile and to cover country. And what's really required then is having a very comfortable luxury mobile camp that allows us to do that, so that we can ride, you know, 15, 20, 30 kilometers each day and enter new parts of an ecosystem. And it's very private and exclusive. So that camp is purely for us and for our guests. So it's a very, you know, intimate experience. And that's what we love so much, the intimacy of being with wildlife, intimacy of being with the camp crew and the Masai people, and of course our horses and the group that we are sharing this with.
Yeah, no, and having experienced it myself, that is truly amazing, because I wish I could explain to everybody there what it's like when the morning that you move, you're in the tent having your breakfast and whatnot, and all of a sudden it all just goes away right before your eyes, and it is left like nobody was ever there before, which is just fabulous. I love that. And along in that vein, what the places that you do go are pretty exclusive in terms of how many people have access to them even. Tell us a little bit about the conservancies, and maybe even a little bit of difference between going on to one of the conservancies and what the parks are, what the difference is there.
Yes, so the beautiful thing about the Mara is that the land is owned by the Masai people, and they have created several of these private conservancies, of which we've been riding over now for almost 50 years. So we have a very long standing relationship with the chiefs and the elders, and the conservancy concept only really sort of came into fruition in the last decade or so. And it's worked very well in all directions, because the wildlife is now much better protected. The Masai, the landowner, receives a direct income from our visitors who come on safari, and it allows the area to be properly managed. So it's a benefit to the wildlife, it's a benefit to the Masai and their livestock, And of course, ultimately for us, it makes it a far superior experience for our guests, riding, in a landscape which is not fenced, doesn't have, buildings and lodges everywhere. It's very well controlled. So it's a very sort of natural ecosystem, which is how it really should be. So we ride in Mara North, we ride in Lemeg, we ride in the Mara Triangle. They all have slightly different ownership, slightly different management, but they have, unlike other parts of the Mara, they have an allocated number of beds, so to speak. So they can't just have a huge number of guests there. It's limited. So it keeps the experience much more exclusive. So, one gets the feeling that you have the Mara almost to ourselves, although there are other camps there, but it's managed in such a way that the capacity is very low. We pay a premium for that, of course. And so there's a high revenue for the Masai people and a wonderful experience for us. The Masai Mara Game Reserve, or the Masai Mara National Reserve, is an asset owned by the local council, so it's not owned by the Maasai per se. And there, it's a fantastic part of the ecosystem. Maybe a lot more camps and lodges in there, more concentration of tourists. And in many parts of the National Reserve, you can only go by car, so there's more vehicle traffic. Whereas where we go, they allow us, of course, to ride on horses, and we can walk and enjoy that kind of experience.
Well, having done it myself in January, I can attest to the fact that that is a fabulous way to go. And like you said, the limited numbers of people there, I mean, I was just amazed. You just didn't see that many vehicles, or, didn't see anybody else on horseback, which suited me just fine. And it was just such a, I don't know, I just don't have the words to describe what the experience was like. But on that, again, on that note, so like in my own situation, we're coming back in January again, and my husband is coming this time, and being a non-rider. So how does that affect him when, last time everybody that was there were riders? So how do you change things up when somebody is, in that situation?
Yeah, so I think, these days we try and be accommodating as possible. So quite often you'll find within a couple or within families that certain members are very keen and avid equestrians who want to ride all day and every day. And then, of course, those that maybe don't ride at all. But it's such a wonderful experience to share that as a couple or as a family. So for those who don't ride, then we have our own other professional guides that join Felicia and I. And whilst we're riding, they explore in our own private safari vehicles. And then we meet up for picnic lunches in the bush and sundowners. And, throughout the day, we're meeting up, fairly regularly. And they get a wonderful experience too. I guess in many ways, being in a car, they can cover more country. So they get to see, a huge variety of animals as well as those who are riding, and I think it works really well.
Yeah. I think the wonderful thing about having the mixed version is they get to move camp with us, whereas if you actually go on a sort of non-mobile safari, you're based out of one lodge, whereas a non-rider has the whole journey with us. Which is pretty magical. They'll be driving out of 3 or 4 different campsites and meeting up with us on the way, and they're not on their own because some riders chop and change, some people want to break from the saddle, so they go in the afternoon or to get better photographs, so it's actually, it works really well. It's a good combo.
Yeah, and a really good point, because there were times when when those of us that are riders opted not to. We had the option of doing either. And there are some things that you can see from the vehicle that you can't on the back of a horse, such as the big cats. You don't want to get that close to them on the horses, do you?
Yeah, so, what's quite nice, is that there's so much to see and enjoy out there. Quite often as you recall, I mean, we'll go for a morning ride for 2 or 3 hours, come back, have a quick cup of coffee or something to eat. And in the middle of the day, rather than going back out by horses, we'll jump in the cars and go for a game drive and go and find a herd of elephants and sit with them for a while, or go and find some lions and then come back for lunch. And then when it cools down, go for an evening ride. So even the riders take advantage of the fact of us having our safari vehicles around so that we can,
chop and change
really have a full day. I mean, going back to the sort of big game, of course, we do see lion and elephant and hippo and buffalo from the back of a horse. And of course, from our years of experience, we know how to approach them in such a way that is safe for our guests and also not threatening to the animal. And some animals we can get close to on a horse. Other animals, it's safer to approach, to those sort of distances by car. Like if you remember that lovely big bull elephant we saw with you in the rainstorm.
Yes.
He literally sort of came within, 5-10 meters of the car, which was a wonderful experience for us and very exciting nonetheless. But of course, if you're on the back of a horse, then you'd have to, back off a little bit. So, both of them have their merits.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I was going to save that to later, but that's a good entree. And then Felicia, I want to come back to you after this, talk a little bit about the horses, but I'm going to see if I can share that video of that elephant that I took. And maybe while it's playing, if you can try to sort of give us the, tell us what he's doing, because the behavior is so interesting. You watch him, he's pawing at the ground and he's throwing the dirt over his back and he's shaking his head and he's rolling his trunk and all these things. So maybe give us a little play-by-play on that if I can indeed get it to go here. So let me see. All right. Oops. Wrong one. Sorry. There we go. Okay, let me find him here. There he is. All right, let's see if we can get this. Is it playing? No, it's not. Hang on.
We can't see it this end.
Shoot. Darn it. Well, okay, now I've got it playing in my ears. Okay, never mind. Well, anyway. I still have a little bit to learn on the tech end, but I'll post it in the comments here later, so anybody that's watching, you can go back. You do want to watch this. But as I said, so Gordy, tell us, I'll try to describe the best I can. We pulled up in the vehicle. The elephant was over by a tree. And we were watching him from there, and there were a bunch of eland all around us, and it was raining and thundering. And we sat there, and everybody was kind of like, "Oh yeah, let's go on." This is, it's just an elephant standing there. And Gordy said, "Let's wait. Let's wait a minute. Let's be patient here." And that really paid off, because all of a sudden he came over to us. And he got very close to the truck, to the point where Felicia's mother was a little panicky, and she seemed to think that we need to leave at that point. But Gordy said, "No, we're okay." And and that's something you could read his behavior so well. So, as I said, he was kind of pawing at the ground a bit, and he crossed his back leg, and he was sort of looking at us, and I wish I could show the video, because the look in his eye just watching us. But he flepped his ears a little bit, and eventually sort of seemed like, okay, I've watched y'all. You're not gonna bother me, but I'm the boss. He rolled his truck. He sort of flipped his ears and shook his head, and then sauntered off. So just give us a little.
I remember it was a lovely experience. It was a single bull. They tend to be more relaxed and mature, those bigger bulls. And, we weren't in any way threatening him. We were stationary. So we let him, if you recall, come to us, which is always very important. It wasn't like we were driving onto him and, getting too close into his comfort zone. So he was feeding towards us, and he gave a little sort of, those little displays just to make sure that, we knew he was there, and not to do any sudden movements. And he was such a proper gent, that old elephant, and he fed quietly in that rainstorm. And then we were there taking photographs as best we could. And then he quietly sauntered off, carried on his own business, and as did we. So it was really wonderful time.
Oh, it was a fabulous experience. And if you recall, there was a beautiful rainbow. As he was wandering off, there was this big rainbow over him, and it was just surreal, really. So, yeah. So, okay. So, Felicia, tell us a little bit about what you do to get these horses ready to be, such fabulous mounts during the safari. I mean, I know I had the best experience of anyone with Marania. I mean, she was just an absolute Cadillac. But, it doesn't just happen by accident. You don't just go out, find a horse and say, oh, it's going to be a safari horse. So how do you get them ready?
We've lost sound. Oh, we've lost sound for a second.
Can you hear us? Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. Are you? No? No, just shake your head yes or no. Oh, no sound? All right.
Robin, we've lost sound.
Okay. I'm going to try.
Is that us?
Okay. Have you got it now? No?
Can you hear us?
Robin?
Yes. Yeah, I can hear you.
You can hear us?
Okay,
hear me though, huh? No.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, let me talk about the horses anyway. We can't hear Robin at the moment, but we'll do a bit of lip reading. So the horses, years of experience from Gauri and myself, and I think when you're kind to a horse, they give you everything and more back. So our horses are very much part of our family. They live with us here at home. They're all cared for individually to their specific needs. In Kenya, it's not easy to find horses. We have a population in East Africa of about 3,000, so very few compared to anywhere else in the world. And how do we train them to be a safari horse? Well, good question. Some, like Marania, take to it like a duck to water. And it was as if she was born to be out there, totally unfazed by wildlife. She was actually a polo pony before, but very sensibly did not like polo. She thought she was far too intelligent for that, even though I used to play polo myself. And I think the main thing is we don't push them into the wildlife. We let them choose. So as Robin will remember, we let them feed, we let the horses relax, and the humans on board relax. And then the horses realize that it's fine, it's not a threat. And I'm a great believer that they learn from the older generation. So you'd always take someone like Marania with a younger horse and let that horse feed off her and learn off her. But I think because we love them so much, they give us their all, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes. No, that's true. Can you hear me again or not?
Well, we can't hear her.
No, you can't hear me.
Robin, we can't hear you now, but I'm just going to carry on with some of the things that you'd mentioned.
Excellent.
One of the other points was about a seamless safari. So, of course, these trips are fully mobile, and that requires a lot of planning in terms of logistics. We are in a fairly remote part of the country, so we can't just go to a shop and buy supplies. So Felicia does all the pre-orders and all the food. It's like, we're hosting groups between 6 and 10, 12 guests. So it's like doing a dinner party, every night, every lunch, every breakfast for, the week or 10-day safari. We have a solar deep freeze, which keeps things frozen, but otherwise everything is meticulously planned. Fruit and vegetables are bought so that they ripen throughout the course of the trip. Ice is made in a solar deep freeze, and fuel and all the provisions required for the camp crew. These trips have a big crew, maybe 15 or 20 crew, who all need to be fed and housed. Then, of course, they've got all the horses, the veterinary, all their hay and horse feed. All this stuff needs to be transported, not to mention the big tents and the showers and chairs and loos and all the stuff that goes with it. So, there's a lot that goes into the planning of these trips. And, we have a fantastic crew who know exactly what is required. And they work extremely hard, and not every trip is plain sailing. As you remember, that trip that we did with you, we had some incredible rain, unseasonal rain to deal with, and it prevented us from moving camp as much as we wanted to, but we still had an amazing experience, and a lot of that is thanks to our crew. And then some other thoughts are, let's have a think here, how one becomes a guide.
Yes.
So for me, it was very easy because I grew up on safari with my father. Dad started the business in 1971. And, and my grandfather came here shortly after the first Great War. So we've been in Africa ever since. And living in the wildlife, with the wildlife, and living in the wilderness is in our family genes. And growing up as a child on safari, you learn about the wild animals and who they are, what they do, how they react, who's dangerous, who's not dangerous. And of course, that same experience is being passed on to our own children, Tiger and Thago, who join us on most of our safaris. So they're also learning, to be naturalists. And so that's our guiding. I've been guiding now for 30 years. I guided my first trip when I was 18. And it's what we do, it's what we love, and we love sharing our knowledge. It's not just simply pointing out a cheetah or a lion. It's much more the sort of different relationships between the animals and how the bigger picture works. And it can be trees and flowers and insects and all sorts of amazing things that we get to experience, not only in Kenya, but of course we also do a bunch of trips throughout the region. So we leave our horses behind, and we might go to Tanzania, into the Serengeti. We might go to Rwanda to see the mountain gorillas. We might go into the Congo to see more gorillas and big volcanoes. Uganda, Ethiopia. We might sail a traditional dhow up the East African coast. We live up to our name of being Safaris Unlimited. So we can pretty much do any kind of curated safari that Robin and her guests would like to do, and that's what we love. It's not just doing a run-of-the-mill safari, not just every trip is churned out set itinerary. Everything is different, and that's what keeps it so exciting for us. And of course that goes on to the whole aspect that Robin has been on safari with us. We met through some fantastic mutual friends of ours in Australia, and of course Robin is an expert on travel to Australia amongst other parts of the world. And I think it's very important to have someone like that who completely understands the kind of operation that we run, and therefore we can curate and tailor make the perfect safari experience that Robin and your guests would like to do. And it's having that understanding, that relationship, which then, molds for the ideal safari, whether it's a honeymoon couple or a private family or several generations coming on safari. That's the wonderful thing about having this kind of relationship.
I'm trying to send.
Okay. If you can see this, talk about conscious travel, responsible
a little text message.
So I think as a result of what's been going on in the last few months all over the world, it certainly made all of us much more aware that when we next plan these wonderful holidays, wherever they might be in the world, that one wants to do it in such a way that it directly benefits the communities, that it has a minimal impact on the environment, and that these travels are an experience where you go back having learned and experienced and shared other cultures and other traditions, and enriched one's own experiences and knowledge. And I think that's so important in these days of this modern era where we're all so connected and everyone typically running a million miles an hour. The beauty about doing these trips and going away from home is being disconnected to your normal life and connecting with nature and connecting with people who have a sort of totally different outlook on life and different cultures. And I think that's always a very rewarding part of any holiday anywhere in the world.
And I think also knowing that your contribution is going direct to the area, through booking through Robin, then through us, who actually have a connection. It's not a massive chain. It's two people or two families involved together, and so that you're going to the right places. It's not being diluted down several different journeys or factors.
Yes, I know you can't hear
Great.
me.
But, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Robin.
Yes, it's been
I
great.
can't wait to see you in January.
Yeah,
Yes,
up and get over here
Sorry
soon.
the sound went, but enjoyed it so much. Thank you. Asante sana.
Asante
Sana.
sana.
Bye-bye.